Okay, let's try to replicate the FFT result from the new scope. We were having a 50 megahertz signal coming out of the arbitrary function generator, and with the signal to noise ratio of a little bit more than 50 dB. Let's try to do the same thing. This one is update to 100 megahertz with also upgrade memory. So basically 1 giga sample per second with 1 trace active. The quickest graph is something like 5 nanoseconds. So a little bit less than what we were having. 50 megahertz display on the top. Measure, you could counter. Let's turn that thing off just to clear up the display. So again, FFT. FFT for this thing, mat. You have to activate the function FFT and operation on. Again, from the starting point, not very useful with the current display. So it's 60 points only, so it's not enough. You have to also, formatter limited, you have to change, so 5 nanoseconds per display. We could go to a little bit more. Every time you change the time base, you have to adjust where is the FFT. So it's always center and how many hertz per division. So if we go back to 15 megahertz, let's increase this. 5, 10 per division. Move that to the center. So 50 will be on the 50 megahertz is now at the center. Something like that. So the graph is well, for the 1054 you have 6 division left and right, not just 10 for the entire. So 12 bucks instead of 10 bucks on the more standard display, I would say, but just changing a little bit. So you have a bonus of moving your graph to the leftmost position and put the center at 60, something like that. You could activate the cursor, manual cursor, and then you need to select the source for the cursor. It will be the mat, and now you could play with the cursor. So left cursor, put that on the peak, and by the way, it's I recommend to use the cursor with the 1054, and I will explain why in a second. It's kind of a weird calculation. Sometimes it says you will see. So from 0 to 112 megahertz for the display. Same kind of behavior. The more points you put at it, the more it will give you information, but the display will change. So let's move again the cursor, move that to the center. Not the cursor, mat. You have to move again center. I want this center at, let's say, 100. 200 is here. 50 per division. You have to give it time to refresh. So 50 is only few on the few bucks left on news. On let's move to 50. So it's always rotation. You cannot input a value. Sometimes you could put a value by default by pressing and entering, but not on this thing. So if you put if you press on it, it's find the most default maximum amplitude you see on the selected frequency. But if it's not what you want, you have to tweak a little bit. So to have more display, let's move that to 250, maybe 200. 200 will have one case unused on the left. Come on, you can do it. 2Ks, so 50 per division, so you could move even more. Let's move to 300. 300 at 50 megahertz per division. Kind of slow. Now we got it. Again, I recommend strongly to watch where you are with the cursor. So the peak frequency is 50 again, that's fine. But now look at the where the other cursor is. So it's a 1 gigasample per second. So 1 gigasample per second, you should not be able mathematically to analyze something beyond the calculation of the FFT up to half of this, so 500 megahertz. And my right cursor is at 500 megahertz. So what you see on the left of this cursor is fine, but what you see on the right is nonsense. So you have to watch out, and that's an issue with the old Rigol. It gives you something weird. So you, as long as you know what you're doing, you're fine. But still the cursor is a good way to analyze. Make sure that you see something that makes sense. Let's increase the number of point again. 2K, 6K, 12K, 24K, that's about maximum, but the display does not get better. 60K still, if we increase this up to, where is it, 6 meg, there are 24 meg point in the scope, and now it's slowed down. 125 megasample. Let's go down a little bit. 250, 500, and this is the maximum, 500 microsecond. But the display is not that good, so something is weird. It's not weird, it's just the way the scope works. So right now it's mat FFT, source channel 1. If you press this, you got this button here, trace. Trace is, you only analyze from what you have on the trace and not on the memory. You could put that to memory and it changed a lot the behavior of the scope, and now it makes more sense. Now we could do something about it. 10 dB for division. Yeah, I guess we could do that. Display view half. Half means that half display is on the FFT on the bottom and top display is the time display. Could put that full and use the maximum of the screen. So the good thing is you use the maximum of the screen with two graphs on the same display. The bad thing is you have two graphs on the same display. So how to fix this? Instead of vector, let's put dot and lower the intensity to kind of minimum. It's not that good, but it has to work. Let's remove the grid. And sadly, the shape, if you have less feature on the display, you begin to see what you have behind. Now it's almost working with the two displays on the same time, but if the FFT is using a lot more display, then it gets cluttered again. So it's not that better, but that's an option. Matte. Let's go back to half display, and now we need to work with the frequency. Center, it's always center and division, how many hertz per division. So let's put the center at we're supposed to have 500 on maximum. It's a 6 display, but increase this to, let's say, 25. Move the center. Oh, the cursor are back. I don't want the cursor yet. Cursor, matte, center. Let's move that to first something like 50 megahertz. So the peak is at the center, but we could go further than that. Let's give it more. Let's stay 200. We could go further. And now we got the entire matte in front of us at 50 megahertz per division, and the center at 250. Now verify with the cursor where we are. Cursor A and B source. Source, not channel 1 but matte. Cursor B, could have one on the matte and one on the channel, that's fine. But now let's play with the cursor. So left cursor, starting frequency something like 0, end cursor, and now we have a valid 500 megahertz, and that's the normal calculation. So having the calculation on memory makes more correct calculation instead of using the only the display. Having that, now we can start to analyze what we have. Display, we've done that. Memory depth, you could manually change the memory depth you have. 2.4K points, so having 12K point will not change much the display, so it just get lower. Maybe if we look at a little bit less aggressive scale, let's move that to 20, and we will have a trace that is more useful. Offset, lower this thing to, I don't know, this. Yeah. So 25 or 15 would be better, but that's okay for now. And what I want to show you is the effect of memory. Okay, 12K, 120, no impact, 1.2, no impact. Basically, the scope is using his fixed amount of point and cannot do much with it. So if you get back to auto, and the noise increase a little bit with 2.4K, if you force it to 12, you have a slightly better signal to noise. And 120, no impact. So you could force yourself to 12K and try to work with that. Having selected that, we could change the gain again, matte, and go back to 12, 10, 50 too small, 20, the next is 10. 15 would be a lot nicer, but let's try to work with 10. Use the offset to move this thing up as in this way. I try to have the entire scope used on display. Now let's go back to cursor. So it's the entire possibility of what the cursor could give you. We'll move that to manual. Move back to vertical. First cursor on top of the expected signal, somewhere here. Second cursor. Yeah, something like that. I see two peaks, and this gave us 47 dB. The last is a side effect of the calculation, and also the first. If I put the first cursor on the left, away, sometimes you have a spike on the first pixel and a spike also on the last pixel. Sometimes it's right and sometimes it's left, so it's not that useful. So the first real peak of noise would probably be this one, but I guess this one is slightly higher. So we could zoom on that section. Matte. Instead of having 50 megahertz per division, let's zoom a little bit to 25, 10. Let's go 25 first. Put the center to something like 100 megahertz. You have to tweak the button. 125. Give it a time to think until the cow come home. Not there yet. There it is. So 125. We could here's the zero frequency pixel that I'm talking about. So we want to measure the noise. 125 is fine. Again, if I look at the cursor, vertical cursor, if we look at it, that's probably the same. Top is, let's say, about there. Hard to see, I'm not in front of the display. 48. Let's zoom one more. Matte 20. Let's go to the next step is 10. Put ourselves at the center, somewhere, I don't know, 60. So it's puzzling because it's 12 bucks horizontal and not 10. So it's not refreshing, it's too slow for that. But once you leave it there, you will think about it and give you a display. Come on, you can do it. Here we got the display. Let's try again to evaluate the signal to noise. Yeah, right. Could probably put an offset there. Second one, it's changing a little bit. Sometimes it's here. It's about here, maybe a little bit lower. 49.8 signal to noise on this generated waveform, and it's same kind of results. So we have to activate the display. Same kind of analysis that we got from the other one. So I guess that's it for the old but really good 1054.